Hi, everybody. Welcome to Keijsers Koning YouTube channel. And we're really looking forward to this interview because it's been about a year in the making. It's with Beya Gacha. She has joined us all the way from Dakar. I just want to introduce everybody to Beya. We, of course, have had the solo show that a lot of us have seen here in Dallas. Beya is an artist originally born in Paris, from Cameroonian descent. That's where a lot of her influence comes from that duality of existence. A lot of her works is expressed through Bamilek beadwork from specifically from the Cameroon region, which we're going to go into depth for. Her work has been seen across the world, from places like I-154 in New York, down to Paris, down to the Dakar Biennale, which she currently is working on the installations. Her work is also can be seen and found at the Smithsonian Museum of African Art, the World Bank, and private collections such as the Leridan Collection, Luciano Benetton, and the Bunker by Beth Woody. We are going to be talking a lot about Bea's work, some of her influences, some of the things that she always thinks about, and what these sculptures all give. We are going to discuss a couple of the projects that have been fulfilled after the opening because they were very exciting. Things like the Brazil residency in Secontar in Salvador, the project that she's going to be exhibiting at the Dakar itself. I would like to start, of course, with you, Beya. Just if you have anything to fill, or yes, please introduce yourself, say hello, all the way from Dakar.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Bart. I'm so happy for this interview and to speak about my work 1 year after our show in Dallas. So yes, I'm in Dakar. Second edition, I'm on it. I'm this time I'm in the curator choice exhibition, and I'm gonna show two new artworks. About.
Explain us a little bit. I remember the initial Dakar where I first met your work was in kind of this old barracks. You had beautifully positioned with light cascading down, this red well with a figure right in the middle. Is that the same space you're going to be doing, or is there a different section you're going to be showing?
Last edition, it was the end of the series of Oran.
Yeah.
I show two Oran in Dallas. They are still with you, and I'm very happy about that. So the artwork I showed last edition was the little girl in this temple made of bricks, but in this ecological way to build, an ancient way to build architecture and temple. It was really talking about ecology, but also about mythology and another way to see our past and as Africans, as in a poetic way and not in a troubled way or dark way, if I can say that. This year, it will be there still. It's still about ecology, of course, because ecology is really important for me. But it's totally different. There will be one artwork which name Amazon, sculpture of a woman. The model of the sculpture is an artist named Daba Makureja. She's one of the few women bikers in the Dakar, and she inspired me by her life. This sculpture. So it's a sculpture of a woman on a motorcycle, full dark, as we could say the angel of death. And she is with her again with plants. And it's like, this idea of the horses, this idea of the spirit of death that come totally in black on a horse, black horse. Well, this time it's a motorcycle. And the angel of death is a woman. But in my poetry, the angel of death is the angel of the rebirth. The new death come with the idea of a new birth, of a rebirth. So death is not something bad. Death is just where we are going sometime and we have to renew ourselves. So it could be quite scary. In my poetry, it's pretty positive and optimistic because sometimes we have to die to be another person or another humanity. So she represents, the sculpture represents a lot of things, but if I have to be short, it represents more that. Of course, this angel is accompanied with plants because she is the one that puts the new seeds after she passed, after the destruction, she put the new seeds.
New comes.
So that's what Amazon is about. It will be again a sculpture, a beaded sculpture of a woman. And the second artwork is an installation. I'm very happy about it also, but even it's quite scary again. But for me, I don't know, it's not really scary. In fact, I found a whole old ancient crib that was designed during World War II. In UK, they designed because they were scared of chemical attack. So they designed crib, mask à gaz,
Yeah, the gas mask,
gas mask,
like the whole thing. Yeah,
but it's for babies. If the humanity go at this point of you need to put a baby in a gas mask crib, that is the object is so scary.
yeah,
Well, maybe it's the time to let it go, because it made me think about the myth of Moise, and this idea of you put the baby in this crib, and you just like put it, let it go, and we will see if he will survive. And you are just like, well, I'm so sorry. No, wait, like if we arrive at this point, if the atmosphere, the air of the humanity respirable, it's too late. Of course, I use this ancient tree that was designed for chemical attack during war to talk also about ecology now and the quality of the air, of the fact that more and more we're going to start to not be able to breathe. And so this ancient gas mask, gas crib, is so interesting now, not because not because of war, but because of non accountability of humanity about
yeah.
how we act.
And
And
how we're still doing the same thing.
exactly.
It's funny that you said that about kind of how much effort they're putting into the preservation of life while at the same time putting so much effort into the destruction of it. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a dichotomy that's never going to work. And then
Mm,
how do you imagine this future to be? Like you said, of a baby who can't take care of herself or him,
mm.
and she's supposed to come out of the crib and everything's fine. Even if he could breathe the air, there's nothing to exist for. It's an interesting part of preservation. And is
No,
this crib going to be sitting in a space that you designed, or is it just in itself?
yes, it will be in a space. I kind of see all this situation with a detached way, and so with a kind of humoristic,
Mhm.
weird way. It's a lab in the future, and that finds the crib. All the environment is full white with a really light, like labs, and with this crib in the center. And the crib is in some water with plants, aquatic plants, because in that it's always for me in fact for me, for myself, ecology is not about saving the planet, it's about saving humanity, because plants will always come back, animals will always come back, but it's just us that gonna die. And so the plants, for me, is really this idea that life will still be there. Don't worry, it's just us who will not be there, but plants, life, water, beautiful flowers, everything will still be there, but just without us. And so for me, the design of the space is that the researcher in the future, or I don't know, maybe another planet or whatever. It's not like I don't go that far in my
Yeah.
in my projection, but it's just this humoristic idea that maybe some person will find the Earth and take some evidence of the passage of humanity, and they will find this crib around surrounding by beautiful plants and decide to make research on it. And so they just take the plants, the crib, and they put it in a lab. So that's the idea of the installation.
You hit on something that I kind of want to expand upon, where you said, there's no you takes on so much, right? You take on all these concept discussions of humanity and our responsibilities and so forth. But I always find it so interesting how elegant you answer the questions you're making, in the sense that I find that you feel your viewer, the way they interact with the sculptures in and of themselves, I mean, from what I see here at the exhibit to what I saw in the Dakar, is as a viewer, you really start caring for your sculptures. It's kind of an amazing thing that you've imbued on it. You know, it's like physically, you've really embodied this responsibility towards us. You know, it's we had the kind of the boy that was unearthing this plant, or the girl that was seated in the tire, as dark as it can be. It is dark. You know, the things that we've done is extremely dark. There is this extreme love that just kind of comes out of them, as well as that comes towards them from us, that I find so intriguing and so touching about your work, you know, because it's a lot of it is very theatrical. I will say the first time I encountered your work, you know, it was like on Instagram, and I was like, huh, I wonder how much theater is needed to just make a sculpture. It's not until you stand in front of them that you kind of you the theater falls away, and the trust that the wording really begins to set in, and you really feel responsible for these sculptures. You know, that's kind of amazing that you're like, you feel that way, like shit, I really have to recycle because this is all coming to an end. You know, it's like there's a thing that you want to change once you've seen the work. And I find that very and it's not in a wagging finger way, you know, you're not doing it droll drum of like, we're all gonna die, so this is the end. It's much more of like, no, there's these future generations are the hope, so we better take care of that hope
Yeah.
wanted. I find that always very elegant how you kind of you make us aware of it, but you don't kill us with it, so to speak, in the work. I think you believe very positively.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
oh, of course. I mean, it's you're making it work. I'm just observing. I had a question for you, and actually, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but you know, you do a lot of design towards a setting, almost like a theater setting. Did you ever take any theater classes, or any set design things in life?
Uh, well, no, I'm autodidact artist. I made some history of art because I love history of art.
Mhm.
But no, I get into my creation totally without really knowing what I was doing. Um, and in fact, a lot of my artworks came in dreams or just in image that just came and have to be done. Even I put a lot, in fact, of research behind each work. Really, I think, in fact, I do the most work in my head. So at the beginning, when I started creating, I didn't have a lot of things to start to try. I didn't get to art school when I could have studios to try different mediums, to do plastic research. But I don't really know how it's come to me like that, but I have a really good relationship with matter. And so when I start to think about my artworks, I just sit and I go into my head and I start to build it in my head. And so that's how I define my personal technique of building. I build things. It's also how I build my artworks. So I associate thing in my head, and at the moment I think, oh, okay, we go there, and after I go there, and I go there, and I go there. In a way, I find the technical need that I have to the technical, purely technical way to do it, and also the final posture they will have. When I say final, it's not really that because I also believe that matter have its own spirit. So you have your idea. I have my idea. I'm so happy. The sculpture will be like that. And sometimes the matter say no. It will not be like that. The leg will be a little more like that. The face will be a little more like that. And I realize sculpture after sculpture that when I try to push the matter to fit in my way, it never works. When I accept that the matter have its own spirit, I think that I really have the sculpture at the end. And I say, sometimes I really like, I thank the matter to didn't let me go in my way because sometimes it's, oh wow, this detail that was for me a mistake. In fact, it's exactly what I need. So yeah.
I remember that very well when we set up the show here. I mean, we both had some ideas and visions, but there was also a lot of happenstance of like remember the pillar of curtain that kind of came about, and that it came into being from a discussion. Like you saw this end, and you kind of wanted to build towards it. It was really impressive how easy you flowed with the situation, because a lot of times you would expect the work to have not just that vision, but also very much trajectory of just like, okay, it has to be this, it needs to be expressed this way. But surprisingly enough, there is quite a lot of flexibility. I did notice also that you really allow for everybody's influenced by their surrounding, but just to kind of have that be part of your dialogue. I mean, we selected the plant to be a Texas sage, so that was quite literal, but even just looking at how light fell and how this world needed to be introduced. It was interesting to see how flexible that actually was, even though they're very contained sculptures, very much on their two legs.
Well, for me, it's also because I do my work. It's not just me that's are in my artwork. So I'm French, but I'm also Cameroonian and I'm Bamileke. And this way to produce sculptures that for us, you are not alone when you do sculpture from the beginning. You have a lot of ancestors that are whispering you stop. So in this way, you have to build in a holistic way. So for example, when we were working together, way to see the situation, it's like it's your space. It's you have the initiator of me being in Dallas, but it's not just as you are a gallerist. You feel your area, you feel your place, you know what is, and you feel my artwork and you feel your place. So you are a guide for me in different way, not just as a gallerist. You are also a guide about what should I put my eye. And so and because you have this sensibility, when you talk to me about white sage, Texas sage, of course, because sage for me is something really important. But how could I know that it was Texas sage?
Yeah.
But you were a guide in this idea of it was not as a materialistically. It was also in my way to see my work. It was also spiritually in these artistic encounters. And I think that in my work, I work like that. Go in a new place and you don't listen and you are not humble. What will you learn? What will you discover? You block yourself to discover a new thing and to have wonderful encounters. And so I work like that. And that's why I love the fact that people bring me some light, some new reflection. And sometimes I say, well, no, not this one. But sometimes it's, yes, of course. Texas Sage was like, for me, Orange 5 with the Texas Sage was so wonderful, so perfect in this place in Dallas.
It's actually interesting, and I've mentioned it before, but I think one of your main themes, and that's what I've learned. I mean, it sounds so straightforward, but it is humanism, and it's really your idea about humans and it sounds more straightforward than it is. There's a much greater idea about it. But I think it's interesting when you bring your work over here. There's other stories that, of course, get asked, and other exposures and context that it's put into. And as much as it's influenced by it, of course, it has its own entity, which is you. You're making it, so you can't appropriate yourself to these other languages. But I think your work is hitting on such base tones that it allows everybody to kind of connect into it. And yes, bring their own stories to it, but at the same time, also be able to look past themselves. And I find your essence and your understanding of wanting to tap into the human spirit is really what drives it. And I mean, I think that was also expressed through the drawings, and I really enjoyed that, showed them, because they were relatively new for you to show. It was something that made sense to me, and I knew it made sense to you, and I was like, I wonder if people are not going to understand. You have to know what's going on, and then most of these drawings, that just to describe them to people who are looking, they're made out of oils, they're made out of blood, they're made with spices that have kind of herbal essence to them, and flowers, and there just are these explosions. You meditate before them on a particular subject, and then you create these expressions, drawings, so for lack of a better word. And as literal as your sculptures are, these, though they're abstract, really have that same embodiment of this kind of underbelly human being essence of like, this is where we're from, or dirt, the ground. This is what we eat. This is what makes us. It was great to kind of show that those two, and then especially in such a white cube setting, as we can see in the back here, it just gave this one hand excavation and one hand a world that we were allowed to enter, and that we understood was our world and that we were responsible for. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the drawings. I mean, as it was relatively new for you, have you explored them further? What has been happening with that, those expressions? And
Well, I started to do the drawings. Well, I named that more rituals, paintings. In fact, I don't know how to name it, so we can go to drawings. I started to do them during the pandemic because I was not able to meet people and to connect with people. And during this isolation, I realized that's why one of the reasons I do the sculpture is have wish inside me about healing, which also come from my Benrelique tradition. I always had this relationship with plants, with medicinal plants. And during this isolation time, I started to, well, I give you the two, comment on appelle ça? Two explanation of how I started. The real one is because I had a auntie that was dead that came in a dream and that told me you have to paint with plants. And so I started. The most common way to explain how I started is because I had this connection with plants. Both are both explanation are linked, are true. But so I really realized that I need to produce about healing. And so by using medicinal plants and herbs and spices that I really research about their curative properties, I started to make this kind of paintings, rituals about first by thinking of people that I love that was not there, that I can see to protect them. And so it was in 2020. And after I continued, but the research was more about, but what I am trying to heal. And at the moment, I realized that maybe for some, I was trying to heal myself by thinking of others. But it's not, it's not in confrontation, because sometimes when you heal someone else, you are healing yourself, and vice versa. By healing yourself, maybe you are healing someone else. And so that's how I started to do those paintings. At the beginning, I started to do it really realistically. I don't know why I tried to be realistic, And after I realized that it was also a way for me to express another part of myself as an artist. Because my sculpture are really, really detailed, take a lot of time, but it's not the time the matter. It's the mental way to think, to build, that I love. I'm really mental, but we are full of dualities. And I realized that I was in balance, and the first time I really let myself I do things, but really letting go all the idea of mental, all process in my mental, and just be there trying to connect with the person I was thinking about or about myself, really trying to not have words in my head, just the pure feeling. And I start to do these paintings. It was like a revelation that go through all my body. I needed that. I need this thing, or when where I'm not mental, I'm just doing things that after when I saw them, I realized that maybe I was thinking about one person. I was really not there when I started to do the painting. Afterwards, I looked the painting. I was like, for example, thinking about someone that have problem with the anxiety and depression or whatever. And I realized that the plants that I put was exactly those that help about that.
Soothing, yeah.
Exactly. So it started to be like, oh wow, like okay. So this way to create first surprise in myself, and after, of course, when I took my mantle back in my head, I was very happy to talk about it because, again, in the Bamileke tradition, we have the praticiens, so that's the healers with plants. We have a real medicine, really push with plants in Cameroon. And finally, I was doing, again, something that was really not holistic, but intuitive as the praticien work. But it was also, we say, blink, un clin d'œil to my friend, un clin d'œil, to my French grandmother, who also was someone that always treats everything by plants. And so for me, it was, again, this reunification, different ancestrality
I was just
coming
going to
back.
say, yeah, different things that running through your blood. I mean, it's, you know, we are only as much as our past. It's funny. I mean, looking back, of course, at the drawings and when I saw them and we put them together, it's like, it always made sense to me. You know, it's like, but there wasn't anything I could always explain. And it's, and I guess in the art world, we always have to find these explanations, right? Or we feel these obligations. It has to be this. So you're there, you know, you're making these sculptures. Now the only thing you can do is beaded work for the rest of your life, which is, of course, is nonsense. But I think if you allow, as a viewer, you allow yourself to look and kind of experience the work, you feel that flow. And I wanted to just pick up on something you said, which I really like, the healing of yourself through others. And that could be misconstrued, of course, but here we're going on a positive angle. A lot of the subject matters that you pick, especially for Laurent, is are your children. I'm curious to see, we're talking a lot about ancestors and kind of how we feed that past into the now, the present, but then you're also dealing with the future. Embodiment kind of works for you. I mean, it's you know, you have your kids, they have their own characters, so it's kind of like when did it become your sculptures, and when did they start separating kids and then all of a sudden also feed? So I'm just curious how that kind of came about. I mean, it's an obvious choice, of course, but it brings its own challenges, I only assume, because your kids, what I know, are quite characters.
Yes. I hope I will find a way to explain my view of that in English. I think that one of the main issue we could have when we are facing something is that we think that one thing is just one only truth, but one thing is made of different truths. And so for me, my artwork are built by different truths. And for the Oran, there is multiple truth in it for me. So there is me trying to heal my inner child through my children, me seeing my children, because I believe in epigenetic and transmission of traumas, me seeing my children that have to be relieved, my DNA, the thing that I have from my ancestry. So the fact to do something about how can I relieve them, free them from this passation of trauma, how can I protect them to do the same mistake, or not mistake as we do mistake, but, you know, go in the same trap, you know, that sometimes cyclically we go. Me trying to heal me through them, but also trying to protect them from me, which is two truths that could seem paradoxical. It's also what they embody just as children, in a way, what they embody as Black children, but what they embody as just children. That is really important for me also, because I think that children from all ethnic groups could represent humanity. It's not, they have the story of Black children in them, but they also have the story of children. It depends on how we choose, which truth we choose to see. I don't know if I really answered the question. I think I lost myself.
No, I don't think there was an answer per se. It wasn't anything I was looking for. It's just I was just curious because I knew it carried such weight.
Well, just about them also, it's like believe in transmission. Yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for them to have chosen me as a mother, because I think that when I start this series about works. In fact, they are still my guides just by who they were. And so I started to the need to make sculpture of them also because I have met my guides, and some people look for guides all over the world, and I had the luck to just have them right there. I just said, hey, and wow. And it was also for that, through them, to also speak about the children that represent the future. It's also the children of now. They are saying a lot of things if we look at them with the right eyes, with the open eyes and open heart. So in fact, there is a lot of different reasons and
Yeah, no,
different truths.
I'm writing things down here and thoughts that are coming across because it's so layered. Processing how to be a parent, and in other words, processing how to be a human. You know, you're never ready to be a parent, even though you think you are, or you're prepared to be. It flops out and you go, oh. And it, it's, but to then also take that into your artwork and kind of process it through, I think it's, I mean, I guess it gives it also the personality of the pieces and that we feel such affinity to them. I think that is probably one of the key things is because love, be it, you know, not always, and when I say love, it's layered, it's all these things that you're putting into these moments is carried through, and that understanding is there. And I like this idea that it's this process of what it is to be a parent. And I don't mean that you always have to have children or all these other things, but it's more of like our next thing is the future, is tomorrow, whatever, and whatever we're doing with it now is going to make what is our next step. You know, the more trash we make, the bigger negativities will come and catch us. Yeah, it's a lot. Sorry, I'm like now totally lost where our thought process was and where my questions were. Rope it back in. So I did want to touch a little bit upon your influences, the influences of what you're surrounded by and the way you kind of look at life. It's amazing to me that you're so rooted, yet you come from a background that when you look on paper is very far apart or divided, so to speak, right? You have this whole history of and heritage in Cameroon, yet you're born in France, mixed family. So there is this whole root and history in France that you're very much embody and very much are part of as well. And you see yourself in that. I guess with that kind of ease of moving, or I assume it's ease because you make it look so easy, you're able to take your practice also to all these other areas quite easily and kind of morph these stories. So with that said, residency in Brazil, that experience that was there. I mean, you're going to Salvador. Salvador, of course, has an enormous amount of history, much to kind of go into it here, but you feel it when you land. You really, when you get there, you really feel that a lot of things have happened there, positive and negative, but it's there. So I'm curious how you kind of came through that. How did you balance making yourself a presence in it? How were you able to get it out?
Well, I was always helped by spaces in my path. And I was like going out of it was not a burnout, but it was really like, you know, this moment where when art creation was really heavy and you don't want to feel that about your work, but like I had lost something. I have lost a magic at the moment, and I arrived to Salvador de Beya, and can we say it slapped me in the face? Can we say that? But with this magic that I have lost, I realized that it's really about emotions, not about specific things that I will have seen or discover an energy. It's bring me back to an emotion that I realized I didn't have it since I was myself a child. You know, when you arrive somewhere and you feel a new world, somehow you know. It's really hard to explain. So when I was in Brazil, I go there. I go to Sakata residency with a project that I made, a sculpture of another artist, Fabiana Souza, an Afro-Brazilian artist. When I was working, I had so much new artworks coming in my head, new connection, new visions that I just always, it's like when I'm in Cameroon, I know that I'm supported by my ancestor there. When I arrived there, I didn't expect that there will be ancestors that was showing me things as I can have in Cameroon. Like it was really like, oh, oh, look at that, look at that, look at these birds, look at this plant, look at this. The first time of the first week of the residency, I stayed alone because it was so beautiful to connect with this place that I really need to be alone. And I was quite rude with my fellows that I love, but at the beginning I was really like, oh, I need to be alone. The funny thing is that I had each morning there were a turtle that came in front of my door, and I didn't understand why. Each morning, and at the moment I talk about to an Afro-Brazilian artist that told me, oh, but you know, the turtle is really important for us. It's the power. I don't remember the divinity it links. I'm so sorry. I think it's Ogun, but it was no. It's really important that the turtle come to your place each morning. It was being in a place that it's really not so far from my birthplace, but not only because of plants or because of people or because there is a lot of difference, in fact. But something that the earth have to show and have to say that was like, oh, I know this language. I know this, I know this, I know this. What was really funny in Sakata, in the residency, is that the thing that I was pushed to see, and I started to make more research about it when I was there, was more linked to natives than from African descent. In my tribe, we have a use of feather that I recognize in some ancient and traditional artwork native from Brazil. And so I was like, well, what are you trying to tell me? Where am I going there? An experience at the end that give me back oh, I know why I do art. That maybe I have lost. Because for me, my art is making links. It's not just professional path of an artist. We have a mission. I always link, like the first artist was shaman in the cave, and vice versa. And I think some artists are like that. And for me, it was like, oh, okay, I find again why I'm doing art. That maybe I have.
Well, it's
Did
kind
I
of
answer the question?
no, I mean, it's I frequently come back to that with Jung, and I kind of did, the subconscious, and it goes through waves, and we just have to kind of be open enough to be exposed to it, be willing to pick it up, and kind of plow through that thread. That was amazing. That's the tough part always with your work. You have so many things that you touch on. I was impressed that you're not totally lost. It's like, because but I'm yeah, you too. Exactly. You're like,
Whoa, I'm still there.
but I think with your work, it's that you could always feel that there is a next. We don't know where it is, but there is this trust that you're like, there will be a next. There will be a next step, and we don't know what that will look like, but we know it's coming. And that's the confidence that you also bring to the work, and that we feel.
About artwork in Brazil, I should have said that because also we were talking about it. I never made sculpture and bead my own body, just the end, because my hand, I totally master it, that's my hand. And I realized that in fact, I never approached my body with beads. I made sculpture of my body without beads, with their own message. I never bead my own body. And at the end of the residency, like 1 week or 2 weeks before the end, I had this need to do a sculpture and to mold my head and to bead it. And of course, at this moment, I was really not thinking more about it. I just had this need. And I made this sculpture of my own head that was going out of the water. I really don't know what I was doing it. I really don't think about what I was doing. And it's just when I put my head beaded in the water and I face my own look that I realized that I get to another era of my work, because each material, each way I use this material, how I put bodies, how I choose bodies, everything for me need to have a sense. I just realized that I never tried to do myself, but this time I was forced to do it. That make me think about, did I really understand what I'm doing myself with my artwork at the end? And I was really staring me in the eyes, and I was like, here we are. But it was funny because, for me, leading people is taking care of people.
Well, I was just going to say, you use the word
Mm,
respect a lot when you say, when you
mm,
speak
mm,
leading. And
mm,
of course, it's, it also has this ritual back in Cameroon
mm,
of
mm,
emphasizing and
mm,
royalty, not royalty
mm,
for his always blood, but
mm.
praising something. And I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's just the praising of yourself that you were open enough that you were able to grow and took that step and,
Mm,
allowing
mm,
yourself to say, hey, I respect myself on this own journey.
mm.
I mean, it's,
Yeah, I accept to heal myself too.
yeah, yeah,
I accept
exactly.
to do that.
Because it's funny you said that because the sculpture before it was you,
Mhm.
but only as wax.
Exactly, exactly. And those sculptures, so it's wax and it's red wax. That
Yeah,
for me is the flesh. So they are écorchés. They are we say unskinned because the bead is the skin.
yeah,
So without the skin and just the red wax is the flesh. So it's really this torture thing that in the Middle Age, you unskin people. It's a torture. It's very violent. And so the only sculpture I made about myself was unskinned and was to talk really this time with violence about traumas.
mhm,
Even there is still an idea of healing through that. For me, if you arrive to face yourself at the moment you were the most unskinned, the most hurt or the most in sufferance,
yeah,
and you are able to see this past of you and to hug yourself and to love yourself. Even it's not beautiful, sometimes it's dirty. You are in the way to really love yourself. But yes, it was really hardcore art
yeah.
sculpture, really, really hardcore. So the fact to know to just beat my own head was, oh, did I finish a step in my own journey of
Maybe it's more,
healing?
did you deserve it? It's
Mm,
allowing yourself to be self-loved. It's one of the hardest steps, of course. It's
mm,
always it makes you feel extremely not just self-conscious, but like, how am I allowed to do this? I don't think it needs to always be a beginning of an end. It can just be
mm,
a step towards, and there's many
mm.
steps back that we can take again.
Yeah.
Sure, there will be moments where you'll hit a wall again and it will just bang the head against the wall and kind of come out of it like, what was I
Mm,
doing? And then, a little
mm,
later on, you forgive yourself and you take a step forward. So I mean, that's amazing. Thank you for even sharing that. That's just stunning.
You.
Yeah, no,
Thank you for
it's
this
really, I don't even
opportunity.
know what to ask you anymore. I'm just like, well, we went through all the things. I'm really looking forward to see what Dakar is going to bring. I'm even looking
Mhm.
forward more to what's coming after, because I think
Yeah.
there's to be this well that you've kind of uncovered from Brazil, just allowing yourself also to be who you want to be, what that means for yourself as an artist and yourself as a human being. I think that's going to
Mhm.
be an amazing
Mhm.
journey for us
Mhm.
to sit along for the ride. So I really appreciate you allowing us to do that.
One thing I'm sure about my artwork at the end that it will be unapologetically a story of a human path that try to be as full honest. And if in the future this example could help people to say, okay, yeah, I'm in this stage in my life, and that's okay. I think I will have done my work. So.
Well, I think, the future is only tomorrow, and you've already done so much, and you've only more to do. And I appreciate that you allow us to be so generous in our own
Thank
journeys.
you.
But no, I do always sense that about your work. It's honest, brutally honest journey with humor, with pleasure, with pain, and it's life. That's life, and it's an unapologetic look of that, and that's hopeful, and that's despairing, and it's all at once. And today's today, and today we can do something, and tomorrow that we'll strive for. And I think that's something that really comes across in your work. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much, and I'm
Thank you.
beyond happy that this has finally happened. in the sense of our interview because it just took so long from illnesses to timing to whatever. It doesn't matter. It happened now. So that's what's important. And I think it actually was probably a better interview because of it. And I
Yeah.
really thank you for allowing us in your life and in your art.
Thank you very much for this invitation. And I'm very happy to have done it. And same, I don't think I will have a lot of things to say when we first talk about it. I think that holistically, it was the perfect moment to do it. So
That will keep
I'm
it up.
happy.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.